Okay, so let's dive into this review you shared. We're looking at a film called Cold, or, well, Kuldi in Icelandic.
That's right. And the source suggests it's a really interesting twist on what we think of as Scandinoir, that whole popular genre.
Yeah, definitely popular. So
Yeah.
our mission here is basically to unpack this review, see how Cold maybe uses those familiar bits of Scandinoir.
But twists them, yeah, into something maybe a bit unexpected. The review really focuses on what makes it stand out.
And it started as a book, right, by Yrsa Sigurðardóttir. Makes sense. So much of this genre crosses over between books and screens.
Exactly. So maybe first, let's just quickly pin down what is conventional Scandinoir, according to the source anyway. What are those tropes it mentions? Bitter winters, obviously.
Oh, for sure. That bleak landscape is almost always there.
Yeah.
And the detective character, often an outsider, right? Maybe a bit unorthodox, dealing with their own demons.
And grisly crime scenes often feature. And you can't forget the cozy knitwear.
Never forget the knits. The review even name drops some classics, doesn't it? Like Sarah Lund, Wallander.
Yeah, and newer ones like The Crow Girl, The Chestnut Man. It just shows how, established these elements really are.
Okay, so that's the backdrop. Now, Cold, the main character is Detective Ódinn Hafsteinsson, played by Jóhannes Hókur Jóhannesson.
Right. And he's coming back to work just after his ex-wife's suicide, which is quite a starting point.
Yeah, and his job. It's a cold case from way back in the 80s.
Deaths of 2 young boys happened at some kind of juvenile detention center, Croker.
And pretty quickly, Ódinn starts thinking there's a connection between this old case and his ex-wife's death just now.
The review raises a good point. Is that connection real, or is it, maybe his grief kind of projecting?
That's a good question. And there's a personal angle, too, with his daughter, Run. She's struggling badly after her mom's death. Valhall Jóhannes took to replace her.
Right. So you've got the setup, but here's where the source says it really starts to veer off the typical path.
Okay. How so?
Well, instead of just pure crime procedural, the review flags it as having much more of a ghost story feel.
Oh, interesting. Like literally ghosts. Or more atmospheric.
More atmospheric, it sounds like. The review mentions lots of, walking down dark corridors, things moving unexpectedly, creepy noises.
Okay.
And even the music score apparently primes you for jump scares.
So visually, it's maybe pulling back from the gore we sometimes expect.
Seems like it. The source specifically notes there aren't really those typical blood-in-the-snow scenes, none of the usual gristle, it says, despite opening with that suicide.
Huh. That feels like a deliberate choice.
I think so. And the way it's structured sounds different, too. It uses a dual timeline.
Right, so we see OG now, in the present.
And also this young woman, Aldous, played by Elaine Hall, who actually worked at that detention center back in the 80s when the boys died.
And the review describes both of them, Ole and Aldous, as seeming utterly haunted. For different reasons, obviously.
Yeah, and that leads to maybe the core idea the source pulls out. It argues that even though the detective is male, this is actually very much a film about female trauma.
Wow. Okay. That's a really different lens for Scandinoir. How does that show up?
Well, it details it through several characters, like Aldous' mother. In the present day, she's in psychiatric care, convinced something called the Shadow took her daughter.
Heavy stuff. And Aldous herself back in the 80s.
She starts panicking at the center, seeing and hearing things, and someone tells her, chillingly, that lots of girls who took that job didn't last very long. Makes you wonder why.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's Run, the daughter, in the present.
Right. Haunted by her dead mother in dreams, drawing these really disturbing pictures that might hint at what actually happened to Lara, the mother. The cause of the suicide is a big question mark.
So you have the boys' home, where the review mentions obvious, like physical abuse in the past.
But for the women, it seems to be much more psychological. This haunting presence, this trauma.
And the review suggests that's what gives Cold its interesting edge. It stops it from just being another cop show.
Yeah, and it even says the actual police investigation part might be the least interesting bit. Gets the least screen time, apparently.
So the director, Illingur Throdsson, what's his focus then?
According to the source, he's really leaning into those ghostly elements, fleshing out Aldous and Run and Lara, making their trauma feel credible and compelling.
And the setting must help. That desolate Croker place sounds pretty atmospheric.
Oh, definitely. The review highlights those scenes as being particularly tense.
Does the review think it all works perfectly? Any criticisms?
It does mention that maybe some plot twists could feel a bit predictable, especially if you watch a lot of this stuff.
Fair enough.
But it also says there are quite a few more layers than you might expect at first. So it's not totally simple.
And there's ambiguity. Like, are the main characters reliable?
Exactly. You're apparently never totally sure about Ódinn or Aldous. They're dealing with so much grief, loss, maybe addiction, this whole generational trauma thing. It clouds things.
Okay, this is fascinating. The title, Cold. Usually that screams Icelandic winter setting.
Right. But the review throws a curveball. It says it's not about the weather. There's even a line about Iceland getting ready for long summer days.
So, what is the cold then?
The interpretation offered is quite poignant, actually. It suggests the cold refers to Run, the daughter.
How so?
The idea is that her parents, through their own struggles, kind of gave her a coldness, emotionally speaking, when she really needed warmth and care.
Wow, okay, that completely shifts the meaning from physical to emotional coldness.
Exactly. So, wrapping it up, the source describes it as an interesting take on the genre, focusing on this sort of insidious feeling of trauma rather than just the crime itself.
But for the purists, are there still knitted jumpers?
Yes. The review makes a point of saying there's still a delightful array of them. Some things are sacred, clearly.
Good to know.
And the ending.
Described as relatively open. Leaves you thinking, maybe wanting more. It suggests if you liked, say, the Valhalla Murders or Trapped, this one will likely be a treat.
Okay, good recommendations. Anything else stand out from the review?
Oh yeah, one specific tip. It says, stick around for the end credits.
Really? Why?
Apparently, the artwork shown during the first part of the credits is striking in its eeriness. Says it really will give you the shivers.
Huh. That's a nice touch, reinforcing the mood. And it played at the Glasgow Film Festival, the source mentioned.
Yeah. So
wow.
I guess the big takeaway from our deep dive into this review is that Cold, or Kuldi, uses that Scandi noir structure we know.
But flips the focus, right? Away from just the external crime, more towards the internal stuff, the psychological trauma, especially for the women, passed down through generations.
Definitely. The whole ghost story vibe and that really thick atmosphere seem to be what makes it different, what sets it apart from a standard police drama. It really makes you think, doesn't it? How using that crime framework but shifting the core to this psychological haunting, this emotional coldness changes things. What does that approach tell us about the different ways you can explore darkness in storytelling?